We're going to go live here and we're just going to talk. I don't know what to talk about, but we're just going to talk. I don't have anything mapped out. I don't have anything. All right, there we go. All right, I'm going to YouTube really quick. Type in Theology Central. I don't have anything mapped out. I don't have. Okay, I'm going to turn off the live chat. And we're just going to. Yeah, this is not good. All right. We're just, I guess I'll go over to Sermon Audio really quick. Go to Sermon Audio just to check our live feed. Make sure we're okay. Yeah, this. All right, I think we're good. Hang on, let me check our volume. Volume sounds like we're not where we're supposed to be. You know what? That's okay. We're going live. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, we're going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective, this is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, January the 13th, 2026. It is currently 3 a.m. in the morning, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas. Sorry if I can even talk correctly. It's 3 a.m., so that tells you something is... See, I'm now... Oh, man. Okay, hang on. I'm just going to start again. I apologize. All right, here we go. I'm going to start again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this again. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I apologize. I forgot to click a button here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Looking at our world from a theological perspective, this is the Theology Central Podcast, making theology central.
Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, January the 13th, 2026. It is currently 3:01 a.m. Central Time, and I'm coming to you live from the Theology Central studio, located right here in Abilene, Texas. Now, the fact that it's 3:01 in the morning, that should probably tell you that things have not gone very well. If you're up sitting in front of a microphone at 3:01 a.m., things are probably not going very well. All right, they're not. Maybe I could try to spin it as, oh, I'm up in the early morning to seek the face of God. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning to open up the scriptures and seek God. I could try to frame it as something spiritual and something godly, but I'm going to be honest with you, it's not that at all. I'm awake at 3 in the morning because I can't sleep. I'm frustrated. I'm irritated. Even this episode, I tried to go live. And then I didn't have something ready to go, so I had to stop it. I started it right at 3 a.m., but I ended up having to say it's 3:01 a.m. because that was the actual time. I mean, I guess technically I could have said it's 3 a.m. Who would know? Because no one's listening to me live, or maybe someone is. But the majority of people are going to hear this when it's uploaded, and they're going to hear it later. So I could have said it's 3 a.m., but no, I have to give the exact time. All right, but whatever the case is, I guess I need to change the title to 3:01 a.m. But none of that really matters. See, yeah. But the only reason that matters is because of what happened earlier. So I thought, you know what? Because I've been really bothered. It is January the 13th, and I keep looking at different things in all of our episodes and what am I saying? All of my episodes. There's no us here. It's just me here. Okay. All right. So I've been looking at all of the series, for this podcast. Yeah, I'll speak correctly. Maybe I will not. Who cares? Okay. I care, but I don't care, but I do care. All right. But so I'm looking at all of the episodes or all of the, content, all of the episodes I have created, and look at the different series that I put those episodes in. And I know, okay, well, systematic theology, I got to get back to that, but it's going to take a minute to put that all back together, figure out exactly where we are in the systematic theology. Okay, I know we're in this long list, and I think we're on the second thing in the list, so I got to put this all back together. All right, that's time consuming, that's effort. Okay, I got to do this thing on the book of Ruth, and I feel stuck, and I don't know what to do, and I'm conflicted, and I'm having all kinds of problems with what to do there. Oh, and look what's sitting there. The Taylor Swift series. You remember when I came up with that great idea at the end of 2025? Let's talk about the biggest album of 2025, the album that got all the streams, broke all the records, and that is The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift. And remember, I came up with this idea. I'm gonna do an episode for every single song on the album, right? And I was going to end my walkthrough of the album right as the clock struck midnight and the calendar said January the 1st, 2026. I was going to end 2025 by talking about the biggest album of 2025. Well, I had it all figured out and it did not go that way. So we made it, 3 songs into the album. We had the 4th song. By the time the calendar turned 2026, I realized that I didn't accomplish what I thought. Then I realized, oh no, this song is going to be very difficult to talk about because of some of the language in the album. And so then one day turned into another day. So then tonight I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's talk about that album. And I talked for 1 hour. And it was a complete stinking disaster. 1 hour. And if you take all the time I did putting all the notes together, you're talking, 3-4 hours, 3 to 4 hours prep, and then an absolute disaster hour of broadcasting. So all of that wasted, gone. The episode has been deleted. And so by the time I get done with that, it's around midnight. And I'm irritated and I'm frustrated. So I just start pacing. Okay. And I'm trying to tell myself, you know what? Hey, you tried, it didn't go well, you deleted it. You've done over 4,000 episodes. None of them are perfect, but most of the time they're at least decent. This one was just really, really bad. You did the right thing. You acknowledged that it's bad. You're not living in a land of delusion thinking that your content is perfect when it isn't. Now, sometimes I may go to the other extreme, but I realize, you know what? I messed up here. This did not work. And I deleted it, which was the right thing to do because it was just trash. Now, I guess, I could argue with myself and say, no, you should have left it there because then it would have been a more accurate representation of, when you do things that are not very good. The only problem is I would be doing that to make a point, right? Because there's plenty of times I make mistakes and I mess up and I leave this stuff there almost for my own humiliation. I've talked about this before. But if you leave something that's an hour long and someone listens to an hour of your content and it's not really, it's not good at all, it's bad, well then is it worth causing someone to lose an hour of their time just so that you can feel like, see, I'm being humble and I'm humiliating myself and I'm reminding myself of how bad I do things sometimes? That may be a noble cause as far as it's good to be humbled and it's good to sometimes be humiliated to remind yourself that you're not that great when sometimes you can start convincing yourself you're better than you really are. So that's maybe a noble idea. But if I cost you an hour of your time, then, you're not going to be thinking, wow, he's very humble. You're going to be thinking the guy's an idiot and he just wasted an hour of my time with this nonsense. So, I had to make, I made the decision to delete it and I did. And so it's over. But then I guess I tried to convince myself that it was kind of a back and forth, hey, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself, right? Don't. You make mistakes. Things don't always go right. Things don't always work out perfectly. And then I thought, well, that's easy to say, but that's not how life typically works, right? So then I kind of got into this concept, right? Now, now just so that you know, I'm just sitting here. I have nothing mapped out. I had no idea what I was going to say when I went live. I just realized it's 3 a.m. I'm not sleeping. I'm still extremely frustrated. I'm upset because I did not get that last broadcast in, and I feel like I need to do one, right? Just to, I don't know, prove some point. And then this one is not even going well, but that's okay. The point is, I have nothing mapped out I didn't have anything planned, but here's kind of where my mind is. It's a little after 3 a.m. Where is my mind right now? Okay. And my mind is here. When I was talking about the Taylor Swift song, Father Figure, that's the one I was going to work on and try to offer a review and interpretation of the lyrics. And I think I did pretty good until I get to the last part of the song, and I think I messed that up. So that's another reason I deleted the episode, because I'm not sure yet. I need to go back and do some extra work. But the point is, in the song, in the interpretation of the song, there is very much a concept of transactional love or transactional intimacy, but I think transactional love is at least one of the themes in the song Father Figure by Taylor Swift, right? Now, again, it's an explicit song, and I'm not going to go back and review. I'm not going to redo the episode. So don't think I'm saying, hey, this is a great Christian song. The song has explicit lyrics, and it would be offensive to most people. But if you step away from what appears to be offensive to the bigger story, she has created a character for the song. She herself has admitted that. This character is not necessarily to be seen as someone that is to be followed. It's more exposing this way of thinking, that this person with great power and wealth and position takes someone who is weak and vulnerable and is going to give them all kinds of things, but there's going to be a cost. There's a transaction that's involved. In other words, I'm going to do this for you, protect you, maybe even, dare we say, love you, but there is going to require a transaction for that to occur. You're going to have to give me something. Now, as soon as I mentioned it in the episode, I was just like, transactional love, transactional love, transactional love, transactional love. And I was like, wow, what a concept, right? And I said that maybe at some point I would come back and do an episode about it. So I thought, while I was just kind of walking around, probably having a pity, well, I was having a pity party, just mad, frustrated. And you know what I actually did? This is so ridiculous, but just stay with me. This will make sense. I'm forcing myself to stay awake. And you know why? Because I'm making myself pay for it. Now, just stay with me. This is all, I'm going to bring all of this together, okay? Because even though I have no notes, I kind of know where I'm going now, right? So just stay with me, right? I am not sleeping because I am punishing myself. I am making myself pay for the mistake that I made. I messed up. I didn't do an episode right. I didn't deliver an episode that was worth anyone's time, and there were like 8 people listening. I wasted their time, and I'm mad at myself. And so now I feel like I have to pay for it, right? Why? No. How dare you go to sleep? You didn't even do the episode right. You're a failure. You messed up. You have to pay for it now. And I know rationally, logically, that isn't the right way to think. That's dumb. That's foolish, right? I'm not going to accomplish anything by not sleeping. What I may ultimately do is work myself into having seizures because of my seizure disorder. And sometimes a lack of sleep can lower that threshold where seizures become much more probable. So most likely I'll end up having seizures later today. And hey, look, I proved a point. So I'm going to end up having a seizure. I'm going to be busted open. My head's going to be all bruised. My side of my face is probably going to be all messed up. Who knows? Maybe I'll fall and break an arm, crack my head open, have to get 32 stitches. Yeah, you really proved something. Yeah, I know. But see, there will be something deep inside of me going, yeah, you're paying for your mistake. And that's such a messed up idea. But where does that way of thinking come from? It comes from transactional love. Now, how am I putting these two things together? Because I was taught from a very early age that you are not loved unless you are perfect. If you're not perfect, you're not loved. You do not get love unless you are perfect. For my parents, primarily my mother, my father never said much, but my mother was basically, I will love you if you are perfect, but if you're not perfect, you do not get love. And so I made too many mistakes. So I was told, can't love you, you're not perfect. And then I've told the story before, when I got to as a teenage years, I was having lots of struggles, having difficulty I was starting to beat myself. If I made a mistake, I would literally beat myself almost to a concussion. I mean, just literally pound the side of my head. I would do all kinds of things, just brutalize myself for making a mistake, right? Where is this coming from, right? What is going on? Like trying to understand, when you know on one hand that what you're doing isn't reasonable, but you don't know why you're doing it, you try to figure it out. And I told the story many times when I worked at Albertsons in Abilene, Texas, and where we live is about a 20-minute drive from Albertsons to where we lived. And I would walk in, and I always worked in the evening times, sometimes late at night. And I would come in and I would walk to my mother's doorway to her room. And I would say, hey, Mom, I'm home. And she'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, I love you. And she would not say it back. I love you. She would not say it back. Sometimes you'd say, go to bed. Good night. Right? And so why? Well, because I'm not perfect. If you were perfect, if you weren't such a mess up, you and she would use a different word than mess up, you could be loved. And so that taught me and so I already kind of knew that, and that was kind of me trying to revisit the situation. But hey, look, that's the way it works. Love, and I know what I'm going to say goes against what you may feel. But I believe there's a little truth to this from a theological perspective, right? Because here's what I know. As humans, we are born sinners. That's a theological fact. No one can argue with me that unless you're going to deny, historical Christianity, you're going to go with Pelagianism. But unless you're a Pelagian, unless you believe in Pelagianism, we are born sinners. We are depraved. The human heart is desperately wicked and deceitful above all things. And yes, I know there's some textual issues. If you read that verse in the Septuagint, I know it's different. I understand all of that. But if we go with this basic concept that human beings are totally depraved, we are sinners, then that sin impacts every area of our life, right? That's why the Bible says, where does adultery and fornication and murder and idolatry, where does it come from? It doesn't come from the outside, inside. Christians love to say garbage in, garbage out. And I always want to say no. Garbage is already in. We're not corrupted by what we put into our brain. We are corrupted already on the inside. Now, you may say this corruption feeds the corruption, but we're already totally corrupt. I don't need anything to come into my brain for corruption to come out because it corrupts. And this corruption touches every area of your life. Your thinking, your words, your desires, your emotions, and let me dare say it impacts your concept of love. whether you know it or not. Now, the idea of love, we have a romanticized idea of love. Love is this perfect, glorious, wonderful thing that we write poems about and songs about, and we dream of, and we want, and we cherish, and we seek, and we desire, and we need, and we can't live without it, and we need love. Everyone needs to be loved is kind of a concept. And I'm not denying that we do all of that with love, but when you strip away the romantic idea of it, the romanticized idea of it, and you get down to it, human beings, our love is corrupted by the same sinful nature that corrupts our desires, our thoughts, our wants. It corrupts our love. And how does it corrupt our love? It takes this, now we got this idea of love, but it takes this wonderful idea of love, and what does it do? By its very essence, because we are sinners, sin is the exaltation of self. It's the exaltation of the I. Sin is about me. So what am I going to do? I'm going to love in a way that makes it about me. About me. And how do we do that? I'm going to love people, persons who are going to give me something in return. I love to get something. What do you want? Love. How do you get it? Love someone else so that they will love you. You love them for what benefits you receive. You receive intimacy. You receive companionship. You receive partnership. You receive friendship. You have someone who's there to support you, to listen to you. And if you stop getting what you need, if you stop getting it to a certain degree, you're done. And sometimes it's shocking how quick love will end for some people. I love you, and then wait, strike one, strike two, and you may not even get to strike three. You're finished. All the apologizing. You could whip yourself, beat yourself, pour gasoline on yourself, and light a match. You're done. Now, some people are far more forgiving and far more, but in many cases, they are forgiving because there's still something in the relationship that they are getting. That's how come we have to repent of our repentance. We have to repent of our good works, and we have to repent of our love, because our love in itself is corrupted. Our love in itself is corrupted. There's no way to get around that from a theological perspective. You love to get love. You love to get something. And when you don't, human beings love to say unconditional love. No, it's always conditional amongst humans. It's always conditional. I will love you until and if, and then you're done. And that's why look at how many divorces there are. Look at all the problems. Why is there marriage counseling? Why are there a million books written on marital problems and relationship problems? Why do therapists make, thousands and millions and billions of dollars in industry around trying to fix all of these problems? Because we love to get, and sometimes we are even the way we obtain, even the way we try to get love, right? It's been talked about before that one of the things that causes problems is that men will use romance in order to get physical intimacy. They will use the idea of love, use the idea of intimacy in many cases to get physical intimacy. Now, they won't acknowledge that. No, I really love her. And no, I really love, but you're being romantic. You're saying all of these emotional words. You're touching her emotions. You're touching her feelings. You're saying all of the right things to get physical intimacy, right? Well, in many cases, women will be much more physical, much more sensual, but they're doing it in order to get love. So the man is using romance and love in order to get physical intimacy, and the woman will use physical intimacy in order to get love. Now, I'm not saying that works out in every single case, but then typically what happens is once someone says, I do, now you don't know when it's going to start, but sooner or later, from the guy's perspective, the romance, the writing the poems, the powerful words, the emotions just become less and less. But what's the expectation? Physical intimacy. You're married. I expect that, right? And then what happens on the other side? Well, the person who was very sensual and very, active, all of a sudden, they're not so much because now they're married. And what do they expect? They expect love. They expect that companionship and that partnership and that closeness. And they expect all of their emotional needs to be met. And so what you use to get what you needed, you may stop using it because you feel like you should get it. But the point is, you were doing things in order to get something. And think of every action you take. There is an ulterior motive for everything we do. Every word we say, why are we saying that word? Typically, there's an ulterior motive underneath it. That's just a reality because of who we are as sinners. Now, and I've always been perplexed by this. On one hand, the church teaches that we are depraved, but sometimes I don't think we take human depravity to its logical conclusion. And you say, well, where do you end up with? I don't know. That human love is trash? That human love is garbage? Now, there's times it can be beautiful. I'm not saying it can't. But man, inevitably, it is self-seeking and self-serving. Now, if you can work that out where both people can be self-seeking and self-serving and get what they want and what they need, boom, you got a successful marriage, okay, right? It's like, I'll continue to love you, and if that person naturally is giving you what you want and what you need, and you're naturally giving them what they want and their need, then you love each other, and it looks like the perfect marriage. The only problem is, and I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with that. The point is just acknowledge that I love you because of what you give me, what you get me, what I get, and as long as that works out, then you've got a mutually agreed upon contract, right? Okay. I'm going to love you. And as long as I get this, and it works. But as soon as that starts going wrong, dun, 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 the problems begin. Bitterness creeps in, frustration creeps in, separation happens, even if they're in the same place, same house. Human love is so transactional. Now, that from a theological perspective, the only place we supposedly can find love that's not transactional, and we could even get into a whole concept about this, and I mentioned this talking about the Taylor Swift song, but we know this, to a certain degree, we can say God's love is unconditional. Now, I know what you could say, well, it's unconditional if you believe. If you don't believe, well, you're punished, right? But you could say, well, God still loves you, but you did not accept. Now we could get into a lot of different things, but for the most part, from a theological perspective, we can say this: for God so loved the world that He gave, not because of what we give Him, but He gave, not because of anything He's going to get. He gave His Son. He gave His Son. To whom? For whom? He gave His Son for whom? Well, for people who are from a theological perspective, rebels who all deserve eternal judgment. All right, well then guess what? From a theological perspective, that's how we are viewed. We are rebels who deserve judgment, right? So He gives His Son to do what? To die for us so that He can save us. How are we saved? Well, unless we're Catholic, we believe that we are saved by grace, mercy, by an imputed righteousness. By faith, He forgives me all of my sins because Christ died and paid for all of those sins. His blood washes them away. And then His perfect righteousness is imputed to my account, not because of anything I do. My salvation has nothing to do with what I can do, should do, would do, may do. No, I know Christians love to turn that into something, but no. It's purely because of what Christ has done. And he continues to love me unconditionally, no matter how many times I sin, no matter how many times I fail. He loves me. His love is constant. His love is consistent. His love is eternal, and his love is unconditional. That makes his love radically different than our love, where our love is transactional. Our love is conditional. I love you. Hope you do what I need you to do, and hope you give me what I need you to give me, because if you don't, love is not in the air. Love is leaving the room. Love is departing the premises. Ladies and gentlemen, love has left the building because it's not sticking around. You don't get it unless you're perfect. Now, I know that may be too simplistic. No, you can get it even if you're not perfect. If someone is willing to love you if you're not perfect. Now, sometimes they may forgive the first mistake. And sometimes they'll say, well, I've forgiven you, but I don't love you anymore. Okay. Well, I don't know. Is that the way it works? We're supposed to love as Christ, or we're supposed to forgive as Christ has forgiven us. I know we're never going to do any of that. Now, if we take the famous chapter, the Bible obviously exalts the importance of love in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, because it starts off, if I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others. I'm sorry, I'm reading it from a different translation, and I've read it so many times in the King James. I just want to start reciting it from the King James. So let me slow down and read the words in front of me instead of trying to recite 1 Corinthians 13 from a different translation, all right? If I could speak all the languages of earth and of angels, but didn't love others, I would only be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I had the gift of prophecy, and if I understood all of God's secret plans and possessed all knowledge, and if I had such faith that I could move mountains but don't love others, I would be nothing. If I gave everything I have to the poor and even sacrificed my body, I could boast about it, but if I didn't love others, I would have gained nothing. Now, there's two things that stand out for me there. First, this is the Bible demonstrating love is the supreme thing. It is the thing. And remember, what's the entire law summarized by? Love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. And I believe if you have a proper understanding of law and gospel, well, that command to love is law, and it will demonstrate that you cannot do that. You're never going to love God the right way, and you're never going to love one other person the right way from a theological perspective. Why? Because your love is corrupted, and you love in a transactional way, and you will love to get. And when you don't get, you stop loving, even if you may continue to say the words. And a second thing that jumps out at me here is, I think, pretty powerful. It appears from this text that you could give everything you have to the poor and not actually love people. That you can actually do great acts of sacrifice, but not really love. In other words, your actions does not necessarily demonstrate whether you love or don't love. It just demonstrates you're doing a great sacrificial act. It doesn't mean you actually love anybody. You can do all kinds of things. It doesn't mean you love. Love is something that's internal. And it's not always your external actions doesn't always prove what's going on in the inside. Because our love, even if we do great acts, our love are still corrupted. And guess what? Sometimes we do great acts for, again, self-serving reasons. because it makes us feel good. It gives us a sense of purpose. It gives us a sense of identity. It gets us recognition. It gets our name on a plaque. Sometimes even our most self-sacrificing acts are still corrupted. So love is the supreme thing. We don't meet the supreme thing. We always fall short. And we could do great acts of service and not actually love. Then it goes on and says this. Love is patient. Oh boy, there it is. Love is patient and is kind. Now, what does it mean to be patient? Well, if you truly love someone, you're patient with them. Well, you don't need patience if people are perfect, right? You don't need patience if people are perfect. You don't need any patience if you're loving someone who's perfect, but if you truly love someone who's not perfect, then and you have true love, then it should be patient, right? It is kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. Yeah, no, we demand our own way in human love because we demand it. How? Because if we don't get what we want, we stop loving because our love is stinking transactional. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of being wronged. If you truly love, you keep no record of being wronged. Zero. Look, when you read 1 Corinthians 13 definition of love, don't understand it as, oh, I can do this. No. It's giving you a standard of love that which you cannot do. Now, it's one that we should do, and it's one that we have to apply when we say, I love you. Do we really? What we have to say is, well, I love you, but let me define how my love works. See, I love you until you make these 3 mistakes, or until you make these mistakes. I'm not even going to tell you what those mistakes will be, but you'll know because when you're done, when you make them, you're done, you're finished. And I'm not going to ever say I love you again. I'm just going to kick you to the stinking curb. Well, that needs to be our marriage vows. Well, today we get married. I'm not going to make any promises to you because I'm going to break all of them. I'm going to fail you in probably 900 ways. And oh, by the way, I love you now, but let's just get this right. I may stay married to you, but whether I truly love you, you probably should just go into this right now. I love me, all right? And I love you for what you give me. And that could change at any moment. But it demands not its own way. It keeps no record of being wronged. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whether the truth wins out. Love never gives up. Yeah, that's a lie. All right. Never loses faith. Yeah, that's a lie. And it always hopes. That's a lie. And it endures through every circumstance. No, the only love that meets the criteria of 1 Corinthians 13 is the love of Jesus Christ. He loved us. He loved us first. We love him because he first loved us. The only one who, 1 Corinthians 13 is straight law. It's law all day long. You know what it says? You don't love anybody. You don't love God. You don't love your neighbor. You don't love your enemy. You don't love anyone like 1 Corinthians 13. And if you even think you do, you're out of your ever-living mind. But Christ does. Praise God, he does. And in his perfect love is imputed to my account. So I can stand before God and I can say, I love God with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. I love my neighbor as myself. I love my enemies. I love everyone perfectly in my positional standing because Christ's perfect love has been imputed to my account. But in practice, I am an unloving jerk. Now, I will wrap it up in the most wonderful sounding words of all time. I may be able to write poetry that could make someone weep, but I'm a selfish, self-seeking jerk. right? I may be able to try to say all the right words, but in my heart, I love me and you love you. Now, that can work out really well. If you loving you and me loving me works together, that there's something about us that it connects, that you're ultimately, because in loving you and you loving yourself and me loving myself, we still find a way that I'm going to ultimately give you what you need and you're going to give me what I need. And as long as we are getting what we need, there is peace in the valley. It's all good until the transaction stops. See, the transaction works if you ultimately are giving me what I want, because what I want somehow corresponds to what you want, right? It works really good. Well, what you want and what I want are very similar, right? So you can be giving me what I want, but in a roundabout way, you're still giving yourself what you want. And if what I want is somewhat similar to what you want, then I can give you what you want, but what you want is very similar to what I want. It works out really well. And if there's just a few small areas where we have to do a little bit of compromising, well then, okay, but ultimately, that's the way it works. But even then, it looks perfect. It looks amazing. What an amazing couple. Oh, wow. Look, is it, or is just two people who love themselves? And the way they love themselves just happens to work with the other person, because what they want is what you want, what you need is what they need. And you have mutual needs, desires, and wants, so therefore the love flows okay. But I think from a theological standpoint, human love is so transactional, it's not even funny. I think human love is completely corrupted. It is. That's why when it says love your enemy, that's where we're like, you're out of your mind. Love the enemy, turn the other cheek, resist not evil, do good to them which would persecute you and use you. We're like, and what will Christians say? Well, that's not saying I should be a doormat. That's not saying I should do this. And we make 900 excuses, right? And we will say, well, it's not that I don't love them. I don't hate. Yeah, come on. And you see how that works. We don't love our enemies, okay? Now, we can love our enemies in theory. We can love our enemies by posting a nice post on X or whichever social media platform you use, TikTok. You can always show love from a distance. It's when it's up close and in your face and you're like, you're my enemy and I hate you. No. I'm a Christian. I can't say, I love you. Kind of, right? Yeah, on the inside, you don't, right? I may be loving you on the outside, but on the inside, I've killed you 37 times, all right? Yeah, oh, no, you can't think that way. Well, we do. That's why loving your enemy is such that's Jesus taking the law and absolutely just, come on. He's making us, just showing us our inability. That's why the Sermon on the Mount, 1 Corinthians 13, any scripture that tells you to do something, that's a law passage. Identify it as law. You can't do it. I know the church says you can. You can love because the love of God is shed abroad in your heart. And now you can love with the love that you have been given. You've been given divine love and you can love people. Just stop it. Okay, stop it. No, we can't. And we don't. The church has proven it for 2,000 years. We gossip, we slander, we stab each other in the back, we lie, we deceive. Churches split why did churches split? Because someone doesn't get their stinking way, all right? We love to get. So I'm going to say, at its very core, human love is conditional, it's not unconditional, and it's transactional. I wonder if all marital counseling should start that way. All premarital counseling or all marital counseling. All right. Hey, welcome. Hi, Tom. Hi, Susan. Welcome to Marital Counseling 101. Now, let's just get this out of the way. Tom, you're a self-seeking jerk. and you don't love her, the only reason you love her is you love her because of what you get from it. Your love is conditional, it's self-seeking, it's transactional. You only love to get, Tom. That's it. Susan, I think I said her name was Susan. Tom and Susan, I believe his name was Susan. I may have already added, it may be Tom's second wife. So if I gave her a different name a minute ago, all right, it's Tom's second wife. But whoever she is, hey, Susan, whoever you are, guess what? You are a self-seeking witch, and you love only simply to get. If you just both acknowledge this, here's the problem. You love yourselves. Now, here's the thing. How can we take Tom's self-seeking love, who only loves you to get something, and how can we take Susan's self-seeking love that only loves to get something, and how can we work this so that you both ultimately get what you need so that you will both be happy? And then what marital counseling typically tries to work? Hey, Tom, you see what Susan needs is she needs you to do this and this and this and this. Susan, what Tom needs is you to do this and this and this. Now, if you two can work together so that she gets what she needs and Tom gets what he needs, then there'll be marital bliss. Exactly, because love is transactional and it's conditional. So unless you get what you both want, you're going to come back to marital counseling, where the counselor can try to find a way to get you guys to compromise so that you can be happy. But that compromise may work, but sometimes the compromise is just it's got an expiration date on it, right? Because if one person feels like they're compromising too much and they're doing all the giving and they're not doing the getting, then sooner or later, throw it out. It's expired. Because you're going to get frustrated and you're going to get bitter because you're not getting what you want. Because it's got to be what you want. So in some ways, and I know this sounds twisted, I learned better theology from a mother who said, "Don't love you, you're not perfect," than I may have ever learned in church. Now, I understand the concept of love is different than what my mom said, but the reality of love is kind of what my mom said and did. I don't love you. I'm not going to say I love you because you're a failure. You make mistakes. And what happens when you make mistakes, class? You get beaten, you get burned, you get whipped, you get hit, you get beaten with a baseball bat, burned with a curling iron, and whipped with an electric cord. Now, again, that's horrifying and horrible, but it teaches a valuable lesson, right? Human love has to be perfect. And you're going to say, well, and I know theoretically it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Theoretically, right? And even in practicality, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as the other person is willing to accept some level of imperfection, willing to allow so many mistakes. But in reality, you don't know when that's going to be. You don't know which mistake. Now, maybe they'll tell you which mistakes, but even if you don't make the big mistake, you can make enough small mistakes that something goes awry. I'll say this. I think in many cases, maybe they'll overlook the mistake as long as you are still giving them an extra abundance of what they need. If you're not giving them what they need, sooner or later, trust me, all of those mistakes, they're going to pull out that record of wrongs because now they're going to use it against you. They may not have used it against you until something, they don't quite get what they want. And then all of a sudden, let me pull out that list. Okay. So in 1982, you made this mistake. See, when I was getting what I needed, I didn't care. I was keeping no record of wrongs. But now that you're not giving me what I want, I'm going to use everything you've ever done against you, right? Anything you say can and will be used against you. That's how human love works, right? Oh, I know this is pretty derogatory and negative, but I think there's truth to it. Again, I'm just trying to take the reality of sin and how it corrupts love. The church has this mindset that we just love others, love people, and just as if it's a command in which you can achieve. You can't. Christ is the only one who loves perfectly, and his love is imputed to your account. So you stand before God as someone who loves perfectly, but you never will practically. You never will. The only one whoever has or will obey 1 Corinthians 13 is Christ. The only one who will ever obey the commands about love in 1 John and in the Sermon on the Mount is Christ. Love your enemy, turn the other cheek. Love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself, etc., 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 etc. Only Christ. Only Christ. So my only hope, so from a salvific standpoint, my only hope is the love of Christ imputed to my account, right? Because I'm going to, if you say, well, love is the test to prove your salvation, and I got no problem, right? It is a test. And Christ's love is perfect, so therefore I passed the test. Because if human love is a test to prove salvation, then I'm going to fail because our love at its very root is corrupt, corrupt, corrupt. It is conditional. It is transactional. And it's all wonderful. Like I said, if it can work out great, if what you want and what you need is what I want and what I need. If our wants and needs are very much in line, then I'm ultimately going to be giving you what you want because I'm getting what I'm giving and trying to get what I want. I'm getting what I want. If I'm giving you what you want and what you want is what I want, then we're both getting what we want. And then therefore everyone is happy. That's how human love works. And then we say, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. Oh, this is perfect. Well, it's perfect because your want is my want and your need is my need. Just so happens to work that way. Oh, but if it stops, it's the final countdown. Okay, we're going to start singing the song by the band Europe. Okay, all right. Well, it's now fast approaching 4 a.m. So here's the question. What do you think? Have I punished myself enough? Can I rest in God's love that says, hey, I love you irregardless of how many mistakes you make in a podcast? I wish sometimes God's love would be enough. Now, that's a whole different podcast. If God's love was sufficient, then we wouldn't be seeking love anywhere else. So obviously we need more than just God's love, but sometimes it's all you have. So can I lay down tonight? Did I do enough penance? I messed up an episode. I kept myself up till 4 a.m. I've recorded another episode. I think it's been a pretty interesting discussion. Maybe the beginning of it was a little sloppy, but I didn't know where I was going. I had no plan. I had nothing. I felt like I needed to turn on the microphone and do something. So when you see how it started to where it ended, I think I brought it all together. I think I put all the pieces together, right? I mean, come on, right? See what I'm doing? I'm begging for some kind of affirmation. Yes. Okay. Pat myself on the back. Yeah, you're okay. You did enough penance. You did good. You see how difficult it is to live in the reality of God's unconditional love and his complete and total forgiveness, because we can't forgive ourselves sometimes. So I'm going to try to go to sleep. Or maybe I just stay up. That's probably what I may do. Just stay up, just get up for the day. I mean, I haven't gone to bed, just get up for the day. And you know what? Then most likely, I can't guarantee it, but I could probably work it. Oh, then I could have a couple of seizures. Yeah, that'd be really good. I'd really get in See, that's my old life coming back. It never leaves me, right? It's always there. You deserve punishment. You deserve punishment because you fell. That's what the law does. The law says you deserve punishment. Christ says, I've taken the punishment. I have forgiven you. And my forgiveness and my perfection is imputed to your account. So you stand before the Father perfect, even though you're not. But my salvation has nothing to do with what you will do, could do, should do, may do. It's not even proven by what you could do, should do, will do, even though all the Christians are going to tell you that. It's proven by what I have done. I did it all for you. So you can't prove your salvation by what you do if you're saved by what I do. What proves your salvation is what I do. That is so comforting. I understand it from a theological standpoint. I understand it from a salvific standpoint, and I do rest in it from a salvation standpoint because I know how much I mess up spiritually every single day. But once I get past the theology and the salvation, I get back to life. And life, I stumble and I fall and I make mistakes. And even though I know God forgives me, I know other people won't. Even though they may say they will, they're going to stop loving you. They're going to cast you aside. And so what do you do then? Don't know. And then I know ultimately there's a feeling inside of me that even though God forgives me, I still failed. And so I still struggle with that. I don't have any profound words to say. Human love. It's conditional, it's transactional, it's corrupted. All right. Thanks for listening. God bless.